How's it going, guys? Heading out to on my way to pick up my next project. Picked up a car at the auction that we're gonna do some work on and do a rebuild on. It's a salvage title vehicle, and I'm on my way now. You can see I've got the trailer back there. On my way to the yard right now to get it picked up. So I'll bring you back here in just a minute when we get ready to load up the car and you can see what we bought. Well, here it is loading up. It's a 2019 Chevy Equinox. Alright guys, so I wasn't able to film a lot there. It's kind of crazy. It's auction is Monday here, and auction is on Friday, and it's Monday today, so there's a lot of traffic, a lot of vehicles getting loaded out today. So hopefully you got a chance to see it rolling up there on the front of the loader. You can see it in the back. So what we got is a 2019 Chevy Equinox, and it's actually the Premier Edition. It's top of the line, all decked out, leather and all the bells and whistles basically. So I've not actually run a Carfax on it, but I can see it's pretty obvious that they hit a deer, because I can actually see deer hair on the front of the bumper. And then based on the rest of the damage, I think probably what happened is somebody hit a deer and then they put it in the ditch. Based on the, I guess you don't need to look at the back of that car, but anyway, based on the kind of the mud around the front end and the kind of the damage, so I think they probably hit a deer, stuck it in the ditch, and probably banged it into the far side. So we'll see what it all looks like when I get a chance to tear it apart. Basically, it needs a whole new front end. The passenger side, the driver's side fender is gone. The passenger side fender it's got a small dent in it that can be fixed. Needs a couple of three airbags. It needs the steering wheel, and then both side curtain airbags, which those airbags alone I think are going to be about $750, unfortunately. But the radiator core support, it does have a crumpled up fender apron, so that's probably the biggest thing we'll have to sort out. I think the frame rails are okay. I hope they're okay. So it's gonna need some work. Some of it's gonna have to go to the body shop. A lot of it I'll be able to do myself, but it should be a good project. Actually, it's gonna be little stinker, my spoiled daughter. It's gonna be my daughter's car, so my daughter will have the newest car in our whole family actually when this thing is done. But what I like is, since it's 2019, it's got all the latest safety features, so that makes me feel good about my young daughter driving. With all of course all the interior safety features with the airbag system and everything, but I think it's also got the lane assist or whatever when people are pulling up beside you. Just some of those other features that when you buy an older car, you just don't get those things. So she doesn't know how lucky she has it, but it's okay. It's my baby, so I'm glad we can do this for her. But anyway, so that's we got her picked up, got her on the trailer. That went pretty well, and heading home. So I'll kind of run through things. I think I'm going to bring it home. It's not too bad actually. It's fairly clean, but I may hit it with the power washer and knock off any of the dirt or the collected mud from the accident. Get it as clean as I can before I pull it into the shop. So I'll get back to you guys in a bit. Well guys, it's been about a few months now. It's probably been 3 months since that initial clip when I picked up this car. And when I got this thing, my intent was to document the whole process, but I've done a lousy job and haven't had the camera out at all for most of the work that I've done in this thing so far. So I apologize for that, but I'll try to document the rest of the process. Excuse me, as I move forward. But so fast forward to today. I've had a lot of been busy working, and then I got distracted with buying and rebuilding a snowmobile, which wasn't really in my plans, but did that. And anyway, so now we're back to the car. So it is May 16th. My daughter's birthday is June 17th, so I've got a month to get this thing done, and I'm going to start to get a lot of pressure from her to get that accomplished. But once I got this thing home, as I said in the video, tell you what I'll do is I'll put some pictures in so you can see better the condition. But basically, we got a deer hit here in the front, and I'm certain that they put it in the ditch. So the hood was wrinkled, fender, the other fender was a little wrinkled, the bumper was completely gone. I had no idea how much plastic was inside these things, as far as you know, there's if you're not familiar with this, there's like a louver system. Here, I can show you. There's a louver system here that sits in front of the radiators that I guess the car will close that off when it's cold out, and in the summer when the air is running, or when it's hot out, it'll open that up. And anyway, that and a bunch of other plastic down there, it just was total shrapnel. So when I pulled the front bumper off this car, it was raining plastic all over the floor. So hood, the whole front end, all the radiators, condenser, transmission cooler, all that was smashed. So I quickly came to the decision when I started looking at parts that my best option was actually going to be to get a front clip for this thing. So did some searching around. I'm trying to think. I should have the numbers in front of me here. I think I ended up for, was it about, I think about $4,500 if I remember right. I ended up buying this front clip. I had to go, it was about 2.5 hours away, a couple hours away. So I was over near Omaha, so I ran over, picked it up. And you know, of course, it had the fenders, the hood, all the front end that I needed. It has the bumper, it has the grill, pretty much all the parts that I needed. So when I picked this car up, I had told you that this front apron was over here was wrinkled up, and it was. And you're probably wondering why this is on here. So I took the apron off of this car, cut it off, and I'd never done any of this stuff before, so take that all with a grain of salt. This is a totally inexperienced guy here doing body work. So when I cut everything off, I took the one off the original car, and I was just kind of practicing some of my tack welds on this super thin sheet metal, especially where I had to grind. Those spot welds just became so thin, so I was playing with that. That's why that's kind of halfway tacked on there. But what I found out when I actually tore the car apart is this front frame rail on the driver's side was tweaked pretty bad, and actually there you can see it. And it was, I'm trying to remember which way it was bent. I think it was that way. And then actually the passenger side was just a little bit bent too. It wasn't terrible, but so I went about figuring out how to actually cut the tips of the frame rail off. What I did was I cut them off the original car, and then I cut them off the donor car. And I'm trying to remember, I found the actual GM specs on how to make this repair, but I think I left off of here was about 20 millimeters longer. And come inside out of the wind here. So basically the way I did that is I took the the frame rail sections off the donor car, and I actually split the corners in, I think that was 20 millimeters. Put a cut on each corner. I cut off the pinch welds on the top and the bottom, and I actually inserted those over the top of the existing frame rail of the car after I'd cut these off. So it probably doesn't make sense, and I wish I would have taped it for you. But anyway, that was a fairly extensive repair, and then getting all the, getting this whole apron. So basically this, I don't know proper name, but I call it the apron. So it comes around here, goes down. This is a chunk of it here, comes around, comes off this top fender here, comes around, and then it goes down and actually welds onto the frame here. And you can see where I cut these spot welds off of here and actually took it off of the donor car, as well as the top support that comes across above the radiator. And I just left that all in one piece and got that welded onto the car. So it took some time, and again, I can do some welding, but I'm certainly not a body guy, so it took me a little time to figure it out. But everything seems like it's lining up really well. The stage that I'm at right now, where we're jumping into this process, I've got the doors, basically everything's all stripped down, ready to be sanded. I'm going to blend into these doors over here, paint the whole front end. I did some spot priming, as you can see in here. It had some rock chips and some imperfections on this hood. But the process of going back and resanding, I've actually sanded down through the paint, and there's a few little spots where I've sanded down to the metal of the hood. It's an aluminum hood. So I'm just going to prime the whole thing just to be on the safe side. I've got it all scuffed. I'm going to clean it up, and I'm just going to prime the whole thing. That way I can get it all sanded nice and smooth. Once I do that, I'll be able to wet sand the fenders. The fenders are off the donor car. As you can see, they're in good shape, both sides. I had a little bit of, this is probably typical of an accident, but the fender on this side got shoved back when it hit the deer, and I think from the driver opening the door, it kind of scuffed the paint a little bit on that front edge. So I've already I hit that with some primer, and that was actually some epoxy primer that I got in a can because I didn't need very much. So anyway, I got some 2K epoxy primer, hit the other side as well, and it's already kind of scuffed up a little bit. I need to take the adhesive off from the Equinox emblem, and so I've got a little bit of kind of prep work to do. And then once I get everything sanded smooth, I'm going to paint this thing, and I've never painted a vehicle before, so it'll be kind of interesting. I did buy a paint gun that from a little bit of kind of playing around spraying primer, and actually I did paint, I forgot to mention that, I did actually paint the underside of the hood. If I can find the latch. So this of course was black, this hood's off the donor car, so I did paint the underside of the hood, and then I painted the inside of the fenders as well, just to get everything to match, as well as I'll show this all to you later. As you can see this support bar, and you can kind of see that apron through the plastic. That of course was all black because that came off the donor. So I did do some painting already with that gun, and I think I should be able to figure out whether or not I can make it look good on this, on a full vehicle or not. Especially if this thing's got a lot of metallic in it and it's a darker color, which I know is a challenge. But hey, it's a builder car, so it's not going to be perfect, but it's going to be a nice car for my daughter. But so that's the update. Again, I apologize for not filming a lot of this stuff before. I've done a ton of work to this thing. Oh my gosh, I forgot too. And I had so what did I do? I had some bent lines. There's a cooler line that goes in there that cools the turbo that I had to replace. There's an AC line that had a little nick in it. I replaced that. And then the most expensive part that I've had is this catalytic converter, which comes right off the engine. And this cat, so it sits like this in the front of the car, and if you can see that, it's got a dent in it, and it damaged the whatever the stuff is that's inside a catalytic converter. I know it's some, actually look, there's a chunk of it just from me tipping it over. That's part of the honeycomb. That gray stuff is part of the honeycomb material from inside the catalytic converter. So anyway, it was bad enough that it broke the insides, and I talked to a guy who actually did the same exact car. Same thing happened to him, and he thought he was ready to go. Once it warmed up, it was throwing codes, and it was because of that cat had that dent in it. So I bit the bullet and bought a new catalytic converter $900 later, and so that's taken care of. So I've had some of the mechanical work that I had to do too, outside of just the body work. But so I'll try to record everything from here. Next step is I'm gonna shoot this hood with some primer and get it all nice and evened out, and then we'll move forward with wet sanding the doors and the fenders. So I'm using the gun that I'm using to spray here is it's an Iwata. It's an Anist Iwata, and this is the Bellaria W400 is the gun that I'm using. So in case anyone is interested, and this is I've got a 1.4 tip in here, which I probably should have a little bit bigger tip for spraying this primer, but this is the tip that I have, so this is the tip I'm going to use. Alright, so there's the first coat. That went down pretty well. Mostly the hood. I got a little tip of this fender over here where I've got a little bit of tape missing, or paint missing. I think I actually did that when I was putting the hood on, trying to get the hood adjusted properly. So we'll let that set up for a second, and then I'll go ahead and hit it. I'll probably put 3 coats of primer on here. Well, I ran out of primer, but all my spots that I'd sanded through, I got covered. So I'm not going to worry about this little, about a third of the hood over here that I ran out on. I think I'm going to be fine with 2 coats over there. So, time to let it set up. All right, now that we got that hood paint primered, which turned out pretty good, I think. I'll give you a little bit better view of what we're looking at. So, again, there's our black fenders from our donor car. Both sides. I'm going to be scuffing those here shortly. So here's the front end. Let me pop this hood here a second. So as I was explaining before, here's the apron that I cut off the donor. The cross member I left in place. Got welded up on top of these the wheel housing here, and you can't see very well because I got everything reinstalled, but basically so this is the tip, this is the black frame rail tip off of the donor car, and I probably can't see in there very well, but right here is actually where the weld is, and those turned out good. So everything bolted up nice. There's all the radiators, condensers and intercooler and all that stuff that came off the donor car, and all that plastic on the front end. And man, I tell you, I again haven't done this before, but I quickly figured out that if you've got a lot of front end damage, just finding a front clip is definitely the way to go. This line here is actually a coolant line that goes to the turbo, so that was smashed in a little bit. That catalytic converter sits back here behind this cover plate, which I already showed you that I replaced, and then that shield there I replaced, and then here's the AC line that was there was kind of a nick in the rubber. I think it probably would have been fine, but it wasn't. I decided I was replacing all the bad parts, so went ahead and did that. This whole corner here was crushed, so this fuse box or fuse block was all destroyed, and the fuses and everything inside were completely crushed. So that actually came with the donor car as well. The bracket, there's a plastic bracket that this sits, that the fuse box sits in the bottom of. I did have to order that. And as you can see, my case for my battery, so this whole battery mount, this was bent, and I straightened it out as best I could, but it's not tight in there. So I either need to try to do some more straightening on that, or I might possibly just get a new battery tray that sits in. Not super critical because it's not going anywhere where it's at, but just to have everything perfect. But so that's where we're at. It's coming together. It's looking pretty good. My body lines are, you know, they're not 100% perfect. I suppose if it was a pro, would probably have things maybe a little bit more perfect, but you know what? It's pretty darn close. I think we're going to be okay. I already got this front bumper. So this is off that front clip, and as you can see, I started to sand this already. I've been wet sanding it, but I've got a lot further to go yet, all the round contour areas, and I just need to hit the whole thing in general better. And then about the only other thing, my door handles are missing, so I'll show you from the inside. But so those are the inside of the door panels. Simple things are a little complicated in this car. Normally it wouldn't be that big of a deal to pop those door handles off, but it has a thumb unlock on the outside, so I had to take the whole door panels off just to get the outside door handles off. But as you can see, it's got a nice interior, leather, heating, cooled seats. It's got a gigantic sunroof in it. But I do have to do 3 airbags in here, as I think I mentioned earlier. I've got 2 side curtains, and then I'll also have the steering wheel airbag that I have to replace. I actually ordered those, so once I get the outside painted, I'll get in there. And then the only other thing that I have to do that I think I don't have parts is I'm going to need to send off the seat belt. The passenger side seat belt is locked. Driver's side's not, interestingly enough. So I'm going to have to send that out to get it reset, and then I think I'm probably going to have to take out the airbag control module, whatever you call that, to send that in and get that reset as well. And from what I understand, that's underneath that front console, so I think I have to pull out the driver's seat, take off some trim pieces, and hopefully I can access that and get that taken out and get that sent in. So I'll be working on that as well too. But next step, I'll let this hood dry for a few hours, but it's time to start wet sanding on the doors and the fenders. Okay, so I'm just using some Prep-Sol wax and grease remover. Works great for taking off residue and stuff. So I see there's a couple little spots there that I didn't get everything off. Of course, it only takes 2 seconds to clean that up. So I'm using a 400 grit on this fender here. The plan is I'm going to use 400 here on the black, and then I think I'm going to probably use, I'm starting with 400. I might hit this, I'll probably hit this with 600 before I actually paint. So I use 400 to break the clear quickly, and then I'll smooth everything out with 600. And then on the door, the blue door that I'm going to be blending, I think I'll do that in 800. It'll take a while, but I think that's probably going to give me the best finish on that blend panel. So that's my plan of attack with as far as the grits of sandpaper here. Again, I'm not a body guy, so give me a comment if I'm doing this wrong or if there's a better way that I should be doing this. I should mention too, I actually have a DA sander, but I don't have a, I don't have the soft pad to go on it. Can't think what you call that pad, but anyway, so I just have the stiff pad on it, and I'm worried about going through the paint. That's some of the problems that I ran into with that hood, which is why I ended up having to prime that whole hood. So rather than using the DA, I'm just going to do it by hand.
Did it rain it? Maybe.
Yeah, it did a little bit.
It, huh?
Yeah, just a little sprinkle and it's gone.
That primer looks good.
Does it? Yeah, it looks like a... Here you go, look at the whole thing.
Oh man, you gotta do this whole door too?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Oh wow.
Yeah, I think it turned out really good, and there's there's not really junk in it. And
Oh, it looks real smooth.
yeah, I'm happy with it.
I like that perfection.
The time you can see.
I see something right there.
Yeah, so what that is I was going over here and I ran out right there.
Oh.
So I had 2 coats. This has 3, and that's where it's like a dry sprayer. I ran out. That's what you're seeing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it turned out pretty good.
Actually, it's kind of a cool look.
Yeah. 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 So I got that whole other side.
Do you have like airbags put in now too?
No. And I've got to sand this dumb thing. I got a good.
Hey, no.
I got a good start on that with this.
You guys have to what?
Yeah. A little bit. But what you have to do. Gotta go back there. Backwards
Hey,
before you
you're
go
high.
forward.
What are you doing?
Grass.
Hey, no. Come here. Come down. Come down. Come on.
Window squeegee is the best thing I've got to get that water off. Works good. Alright, I think I've got most of that pretty good now. Still see a couple spots. My lighting's not very good on this side. I may have to get a couple more lights in here before I paint. Well guys, I'm not exactly sure when, but at some point we filled up the SD card in the camera, so I guess this is a good place to end this video. We're going to call this part 1. Do me a favor, and if you enjoyed that, hit that like button. And if you're curious to see if I can pull this off, please subscribe to the channel and come along and see part 2. And it's probably at least a part 3, I'd imagine, as well. We're getting real close to spraying some blue paint on this car, and I'm determined to make sure that it looks good when it's all done. So come along for the ride and see if I can pull this thing off. Talk to you soon. Thanks. Bye.